and welcome. Welcome to another edition of Shema TV. The word Shema is ancient and of Hebrew origin, with several different definitions and detailed connotations. Initially it means to hear, but not only to hear, but to listen. Not only to listen, but to listen intently and intelligently, for truth is about to be uncovered, and once this truth is gleaned by the listener, he or she is to proclaim the same truth to others. This program seeks this lofty goal, to ready a people for the coming of the Messiah. In the book of 2 Peter 2 and 1, it says, "There were false prophets among the people, and so there will be false teachers among you, who shall privately bring in damnable heresies, even denying the master that made them, and shall bring about for themselves swift destruction." I want to concentrate on the phrase damnable heresies. Now, a heresy is a lie, a well-groomed lie, a craftedly established lie. This particular heresy that I want to focus on is the term Old Testament and New Testament. Now, this phrase was first coined by a fellow named Melito of Sardis. He lived in the 2nd century. He listed the Hebrew scriptures as Old Covenant. He listed, not the Almighty, not the disciples of the Messiah, not a Hebrew. He, Melito of Sardis, listed the Hebrew scriptures as the Old Covenant. Now, the Greek word for covenant is diatheke or diatheke, meaning covenant. Now, after Melito of Sardis coined this phrase that he made up, comes this fellow named Jerome. Now, these guys are considered the church fathers. He lived in the 5th century. He translated, not the Almighty, not the disciples of the Messiah, not a Hebrew, translated that Greek word into Latin. And that word was testamentum. Testamentum. That's where we get testament from. From Melito we get old, and from Jerome we get testament. Old Testament. These guys conjured these phrases up. And since the Latin Vulgate, which Jerome established, the Latin Vulgate was widely used throughout the Middle Ages, it greatly influenced later translations. Now, how did this greatly influence later translations? Because it was crept in. It was privately brought in. It was brought in uncontested. It was established by these so-called church fathers who never had their authority questioned. My question is, where did this authority come from? Where did this kind of authority come from to coin a phrase to actually rename the scriptures and to pass it on to the masses, uncontested? Since the Latin Vulgate was widely used throughout the Middle Ages, it greatly influenced later translations. Greatly influenced means they privately brought in a heresy. A heresy is a lie concocted to change the truth into something else. That's what a heresy is. It influenced the Wycliffe Bible, the Tinsdale Bible, the Geneva Bible, and also the 1611 King James Bible. There was not a book called the New Testament until 16 11. The Torah was given over 3,400 years ago, 3,400 years ago. These guys, 2nd century and 5th century, reestablished and renamed the scriptures, passed them along to the congregation uncontested. Where did that type of power come from? Where did that type of power come from? These guys were called the church fathers. The Bible, or the Torah, was written in Hebrew. These guys were Catholic. These guys were Catholic. And the societies melded. Greco-Roman society. So Greek and Roman, it's the same animal. Where did this authority come from? Who established this authority? Through the workings of Satan. Through the workings of Satan, he has developed a division of the book. Old, Hebrew, New, Greek. And this was repeated from generation to generation, cementing it into the minds of the world system that he controls. And it renders the Torah, the original scriptures, void. The original instructions given on Mount Sinai through Moses for all time, by calling it old, connotates antiquity, uselessness, and outdated, while the new connotes fresh, relevant, and dated. This is the most dangerous of the heresies, because it causes the people that the Messiah died for to sin without even knowing it. Without even knowing it. 1 John 3 and 4 reads, "Whosoever sinneth transgress also the law." Now that's what the Greeks called the Torah. They called the Torah the law, and it was never called this. But 1 John 3:4 says, whoever sinneth transgresses also the Torah, because sin is the transgression of the Torah. That's what sin is. That's what the Almighty calls sin. Now, when we're asked to define sin as stealing, robbing, killing, raping, lying, disregard of the Almighty, disregard of human life, all of those things are just byproducts of what sin is. Once you transgress the Torah, you're open for anything. But this is why the Messiah came. This is why the Messiah came. He delivered us from the law of sin and death. The law that Paul talks about we're no longer under is the law of sin and death. Because when you transgress the Torah, you could die for that. You could die for that. Because the Torah, which is called law by the Greek, was never called this, this too is a damnable heresy. Even with a vague knowledge of history. With his Greek, Western, Latin understanding of a Hebrew book mars our vision, depletes our understanding. Even with terms like feast or Sabbath or Passover or any other term used by the Hebrews is killed off. It's killed off. Any type of a Hebraic understanding which the Torah was written in, which even the Brit Hadishah. Now Brit means covenant. Brit is a Hebrew word for covenant, but Hadishah means renewed, repaired. In Jeremiah 31:31 it says, "This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel and the house of Judah." He said, "I will take my laws." What laws? The laws that I gave at Sinai, and put them in their mind. Put it in their mind, because it was made weak through the flesh. We had to sacrifice animals. But in the book of Hebrews 8 and 10, the same covenant is repeated word for word. Why? Why is it written for word? Because in Jeremiah 31:31, you're reading a new covenant in what they call the Old Testament. And then in Hebrews, you read the new covenant in the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant. It's the same covenant. There's no such thing as an Old Testament. There's no such thing as a New Testament. These phrases were coined by Roman Catholic so-called church fathers that infiltrated and brought in damnable heresies, uncontested, secretly, craftily. Until next time, seek him while he can be found. Call upon him while he is near. Ask, and you'll be answered. Knock, and the door shall be opened. Seek, and you shall find. This is Mikael McDaniel. Shalom.